Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. The blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media signing black in and shining again, asking you to hit the mother cuss word share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Let me tell y'all what's going on. Here's what's, okay, I saw Brother Jackson's video. And in the video, he was talking about Dr. Umar's interview. And I think that interview may have been some years ago, but I know Dr. Umar spoke against interracial marriages and relationships with black people, and I get that. But you know what? I have to beg to differ, Brother Jackson. Not out of hatred, but I have to beg to differ for this reason. I've seen both sides, man. Having been select and having been non-select, I've seen all that there is to see with regards to how sisters choose their men. I've seen the ghetto ratchets choose the worst men when they're young. I've seen the suburban chicks also likewise choose close to it, close to the worst. I've seen, as I got older, the ghetto ratchets trying to choose men they'd never chosen before, while the suburbanites, the ones that grew up Huxtable, never changed what they were looking for in men until they decided to go white. I never saw anything else. On mass scale, I never saw anything happen any other way. I noticed at a young age, very young age, I picked up on the fact that all it takes is for a Western black woman to be moderately attractive, and her attitude is impossible. It just is. Then they'll get with a white guy. And I saw that in the last few years. They get with a white guy and change and admit that they're changing. I, for one, am tired of seeing the hypocrisy. And that's not something that I feel that we black men have to forgive. Even mixed messages. We don't have to forgive even mixed messages. Why are they sending out mixed messages to black men? Doesn't matter why. See, the pro-black man can't necessarily stay with the black woman for one reason. The pro-black man has the hardest time even getting into a relationship with an attractive black woman. Because if he's known to be pro-black and it affects his finances, she ain't trying to hear that. If it doesn't affect his finances and he's still somewhere in the middle, she ain't trying to hear that. Because it might later on. So, no, they ain't really trying to hear that. I know. I've been there before. Additionally, let's talk about Omar and his problem with it. I get that many other people, in many other groups of people, have looked at black folks and considered us to be the genetically inferior people on the planet. Many others have done so. I understand, certainly whites have done so. So that's why I would sit up and tell any black man, leave them white women alone. Definitely leave them alone. Who you think taught Sapphire everything she knew to make everything she knows now to make everything difficult? Who you think they learned that from? They learned that one from Becky, Karen, and Amber. I also tell brothers, leave them Indian women alone. Their people have problems with black folks. I don't have to say this about the Japanese, but I do have to say this about the Chinese and the Koreans. I don't have to say this about the Southeast tropical Asians. You got a lot of black men married to Filipino women. And you know what I don't hear about? Divorce. There's one case I heard of in which a black man divorced a Filipino. Now, I know that there's some that exist, but the one about which I even heard secondhand was a case in which a black American Muslim man living here in this country married a Filipina, and she treated him well, but he thought he didn't deserve it because that's how he was raised. His mom and aunts, he knew that they would have criticized her for cooking his meals before he got home from work, running his bath water so he could come home and choose to eat first and bathe, or he could come home and choose to bathe first and then eat. And it will really just depend. I mean, you come home in the wintertime, you might want to eat first, then bathe. You come home in the summer, you may want to bathe first and then eat because it's hot. Then she would massage him, help him sleep. And he felt guilty because he knew his mother and aunts would have had something to say to her about spoiling him, so he divorced her feeling guilty. That's the only case in which I heard about. I don't have to tell brothers, stay away from the Filipino women. They don't look down on black men. I don't have to tell brothers, stay away from the Indonesian woman, from the Malaysian woman. They don't look down on black men. Feminism is a growing problem in the capital cities of those two countries I mentioned, Jakarta and Kuala Lumpur. Some men in Jakarta say this, and I haven't seen it. And in Kuala Lumpur, I witnessed it through my buddy. Yeah, that's a real problem. But a hatred of black men, consideration that the black man is inferior by these women? No. These women count black men as being more equal than even a lot of Western black women count black men to be, along with the Japanese woman of East Asia. I already know the Chinese woman, if she can get that white dude, she'll do it. The Korean woman, if she can get that white dude, she'll do it. See, Omar has a point about certain groups when they don't view us as equal. Omar does not have a leg to stand on when it comes to all interracial marriages as a whole, because what black woman has he married? He's had kids with black women, but not married them. So I've been married 3 times, twice divorced. And no, I don't blame myself for the divorces. I'm not going to blame myself for the divorces because I'm not aware of that over which I had any control. Except I could have been more pessimistic and less trusting in the beginning and just simply chosen to never get married. It's the only thing I could have done different about which I know. The day I find out that I had control over something that led to the divorce, I'll take accountability. Haven't found that yet. What I can tell you, though, is that, see, in all cases, I married black. In all cases. But the last time, I almost did not. I am one of those black men that I did not have the option to keep it black for a long time. So last time I got lucky. But I almost did not have that option, sir. In my case, it was actually for a reason I would understand. I thought black women were race loyal, didn't want to be, and you know what, there was a time they were, I guess. I figured they just wanted someone blacker. But that's the whole thing. You got black men that are considered insufficiently black by many black women for very stupid and superficial reasons. Negatively stereotypical reasons. Most black men, sir, they're just not what black women want, and that is not the fault of these men. It's high time we admit, Western black women got a problem with hybristophilia and believe in white supremacist negative stereotypes of black men and defining black men by these stereotypes. Well, they're afraid of you, so you should scare them. Well, they think that you've got a gun on your waist and that you're going to pistol whip and pimp slap everybody in here, so that's what you should do. They want us to be their attack dogs. You could simply look at this lady that calls herself Goddess Ayana, barking for a whole minute and 38 seconds about some of you are just not alpha enough for us, sir, pretty much saying that the alphas are in prison. And that's why the white man targets them and locks them up. And to a certain extent, that's true when you get political. But a lot of them dudes in there ain't political. whether they're in county or whether they're in the pen. A lot of them cats ain't political. A lot of them don't even have anything to say about anything political till they've been locked up for a while. And then they become prison preachers, cell block clerics. And frankly, we don't need too much of that in our community. It's like you got to screw your life up before you can preach and tell the young men to not screw theirs up. Really? That's what we are? And it's the sisters that promote this kind of thing. And last thing I'm going to say is this. You mentioned the Indians and how they tend to act and they don't intermarry. Let me tell you something about the Indians. Now, in Indonesia, the Indians are not a community as far as I know. But in Malaysia next door, the Indians are one of the three races that comprise the majority of Malaysia's population. The Malay are a race, the Chinese are a race, the Indians are a race. The Indians that are Muslim don't mind marrying the Malay people because generally the Malay are not as dark as the Indians on average. The Indians that are not Muslim don't mind marrying the Chinese because, well, the Chinese are the palest race. They're the palest of the three on average. The Indians, they're rumored to have killed an African that was living in Malaysia. He was a new resident. He wandered into their neighborhood not knowing the area, and they killed him. That's the rumor I heard. I couldn't find the newspaper article to prove it. I actually saw when I was in Kuala Lumpur, an Indian woman raised her voice at not only a black girl, but an African-American girl, an ADOS girl. I had to tell her, you need to lower your voice because it's a new day here. There's going to come a day when we black folks outnumber y'all. And don't get it twisted. We ain't scared of Indians. I didn't like having to talk to any woman like this, but an Indian woman had just raised a voice to an African-American girl for exiting a carnival ride in the wrong direction, not knowing. And she did this in front of my wife's niece, who is Somali. I didn't want either of the two black girls to get used to this idea that some tragic mulatto out of India could sit up here and talk to them like this. But let me explain this to you about the Indians, sir. When the Indians are surrounded by black majorities, that's when they hold on to who they are and they don't mix. They don't compromise their culture or their religion or their DNA. See, in Trinidad, they might even compromise the culture a little bit. They hold on to Hinduism and they hold on to their DNA. They ain't trying to screw Negroes for the most part. You actually got a lot of black folk with some Indian blood. That's the funny thing. But for the most part, the Indians ain't trying to get down with black folk and mix with black folk like that. But then, you take, let's start over. Trinidad and Tobago. Indians tend to stay Indian. Guyana, they tend to stay Indian. Uganda, as you know. South Africa, Kenya, they tend to stay Indian. Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Liberia, they tend to stay Indian. But that's because they're surrounded by these black majorities. You drop them off in the States. You drop them off in Canada. Hell, you can drop them off in the UK, where they live in their own neighborhoods. The third generation to live in these places, that's the one that'll mix. In the UK, maybe the third generation to be born in the UK, that's the one that's going to mix, and they're going to mix with white. It's a different attitude, sir. That's what's going on. Indians don't mind turning white. It's turning black they got a problem with. And this is why you and Dr. Umar have every right to advise black men to leave alone the Indian woman, the Pakistani woman, the Persian, the Afghan, and the Arab, as I have specified so many times, for that specific reason, the Chinese and the Korean woman too, especially the Chinese woman. The Japanese, They don't have a history of that. If they want a white dude, they marry a white dude. If they want a black man, they marry a black man. If they want a Japanese, they marry a Japanese. But they don't go around telling each other, oh, you need to get you a white guy so you can move up. And these are the Japanese. They look down on the Koreans and the Chinese, but for some odd reason, it comes to black men, they don't look down. Southeast tropical Asians, the Cambodians, the Laotians, the Thai, the Filipinos, the Malaysians, the Indonesians, the Vietnamese. You don't see that same attitude with him. They'll show a black man more love than a black woman will. They'll show a black man more interest initially. When I look back on it, there were cases in which they were trying to holler at me. I was young, I didn't know it, but there were times when they were trying to holler at me. No sister equally attractive as them would have ever tried that. No sister half as attractive as him would have ever tried that. The reason that I don't look back and say that I should have got with one of the Vietnamese is religion. They were either polytheistic or they were Catholic. And I was religiously incompatible with them. Even before I chose Islam, and that's the only reason I don't look back and say, man, I should have got with some of them, dated them, treated them well, dug them out. That's the only reason I don't look back and say I should have done it. But no, bro. I don't want to take too long with this, Mr. Jackson. I'm not saying this out of hatred, but in the end, it just comes down to the fact that, frankly, black men would be stupid to try to limit themselves to black women, especially in the West. And even in the continent, you know, things are changing. They say half the continent's gone already. I don't know if it's up to half, but I do know that feminism's getting to be a problem there because it's brothers from different countries in Africa that are saying it. We already know South Africa's gone. The urban centers in South Africa have been taken over by feminism. Joburg, Cape Town, Durban, that's not all. Port Elizabeth, East London in South Africa, these places, medium-sized cities, gone. These women are sitting here demanding lobolas, which means dowries. They're demanding high dowries and they're single mothers. That's what's going on in South Africa. You got virgin men expected to pay high lobolas to get married to women that were out here screwing someone else. Man, fit the guck out my face with that sure bit. And brother's supposed to be okay with that. You've heard, you sat with Joe Anita on Ken Ganda and heard some of what she expects. I hate to say it, man, but feminism is making its way through our home continent, from place to place, from capital to capital, and from suburb to suburb. And it's like you got to go into these rural, completely underdeveloped areas to find someone that ain't got that. And even then, you might not be able to speak a common language with them. Man, I'm sorry, bro. That's too messed up. It's like the continent is a 50-50 gamble. It's worth going and giving it a shot, but you still have to deal with the fact that you got a high chance of finding a feminist. And the thing is, they know to hide it. So no, bro. You and Dr. Omar are just going to have to face a cold, hard fact. I'm not going to get into what other people say about Dr. Omar collecting money for the school and they ain't opened up yet and all that. I know people say that. I'm just not touching on that in this case. What I am going to say is that as a man that was pro-black and who is now pro-black male, who had heavy Pan-Africanist leanings like you, and to a certain extent who does have Pan-Africanist leanings, I got to say, man, it was never up to us. It was always up to the black woman if we could afford to remain race loyal. And they ain't doing that. That same black woman in America, she's talking about divesting and swirling. That same black woman in Africa, Ken sat up and told you if they can get that white dude, they'll take him over to black American. Because they know he usually has more money. You got a better shot of actually being chosen and preferred over a white man by a Southeast Asian woman or by a Japanese. Right now, the way things are going, by some Moroccan women, especially if they're Moroccans that lived in the West. And even then, they're probably going to have feminist leanings. They just prefer black men. So you still, bruh, we don't have the option you're talking about. We ain't all 6'2". We ain't all, and most men in general in the world ain't going to make a lot of money. Most people ain't. And these women are sitting up looking at us, we all deserve a man that's above 6'2" and making over 100K. We all deserve that because we black queens and goddesses. Okay, so how you think they're going to treat most of us when we ain't it? When we're not that? It's the same black woman in Africa or in the United States or anywhere in the West for that matter. Hell, sometimes in the Caribbean, that looks and says, we don't owe you men nothing. And they're going to sit up and have you convinced that we owe it to them to limit our marriage and sexual choices to them. No, bruh. No. If my son can go to the Philippines and find a wife that will treat him well in a short time, then that's where he needs to go. My son who likes some comics. My son that likes the Transformers movies. Likes a little science fiction. He actually likes to draw science fiction art, looking for customers for it. My son that likes that. Who still did pretty well in boxing when he tried his hand at it briefly. That son. That's a lot of people's sons. Black sons. And he done already said, the Western woman, black or white, is going to give him problems, and he knows he doesn't have to try. He knows because he can watch his friends that are in relationships right now and see what they're going through. They know about my channel. They tell him when a new video comes up. I'm pretty sure they're about to split with these broads after a bit. Because they know through my channel, black men that have gone to Southeast Asia and gotten married have said, yeah, man, it's been okay. Black men that have come over here to the Gulf and married Filipino women have said, yeah, man, I get treated well. I get treated great. My son knows the secret's out. Southeast tropical Asia. The Western black woman wants him to be 6'2", wants him to make 100K, wants him to raise her children by another man, wants him to be race loyal while she's not, wants him to accept the losing end of all kinds of double standards that these women have. That's what the Western black woman and white woman wants. And that's not fair to my son. My daughters would look at this kind of deal and tell their brother, you better not take this deal. If that Panay woman likes you and she'll actually treat you well, man, you go ahead and get with her. Spoil her. I think I said enough, man. I didn't want to take this length of time anyway. I wanted this to last about 16 minutes, but no, man. I think you and Dr. Umar missed the mark. A lot of new information is coming out, and it just seems like y'all keep missing it. No, bro. Brothers don't have the option. A lot of brothers don't have the option. Yeah, brothers should leave alone women who come from groups of people that typically have disrespected us, starting with the white woman. That's true. But right off interracial marriage altogether, every ethnicity that's not us, no, man. We can't afford that. So, just gonna call it what it is, bruh. And some of your friends that like to say this stuff about game, they really need to fuck the shuck up. Because nobody beats women's game. You can't learn more game than what women have. Ironically, the ones that don't need game are the ones who have all of it. Anyway, thanks for listening. Black heart, black mind, blackout. Assalamu alaikum and black heterosexual non-select male power. An F game just because they don't like it. black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.